Kia ora koutou. Welcome to Social Enterprise Auckland's first webinar. We're really privileged to have Craig and Maya from Will&Able and Rakana and Sashi from Belong Aotearoa to talk about employment-focused social enterprises. For those who attend our events, we normally run live events once a month at Great Auckland. And Social Enterprise Auckland is about supporting and providing some training material to grassroots, small to medium social entrepreneurs. And this particular one is focused on meaningful employment opportunities. So thanks everybody for coming today. I might just get everybody just to introduce themselves briefly and talk about their role. So I will start with you, Craig. You're the first on my screen.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. My name's Craig Burston. I'm the General Manager of Will&Able.
And then Maya.
I'm Maya Jarras, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator at Will&Able.
And Rakana.
Kia ora, I'm Rakana Sherd, and I'm the Chief Executive at Belong Aotearoa.
And last but not least, Sashi.
Hi everyone, I'm Sashi. I'm the Project Coordinator for Voice Catering Services, work under Belong Aotearoa.
Okay, so thank you everybody for coming today. I don't know about anybody else, but this is my first webinar. And it's good to get stuck in because I feel like this is the way that we're going to have to operate for the next few weeks and hopefully not months. So for all who are watching, bear with us. We're all newbies. Yeah, so the purpose of this session is to talk about employment-focused social enterprises, and the reason for that is based on the inequality that we currently face, that is one of our biggest global challenges. The idea of an employment-focused social enterprise is to enable and empower vulnerable communities with meaningful employment opportunities. And at the Social Enterprise World Forum, meaningful employment opportunities is one of the key issues that we face at the time, along with climate change and gender equality. So it's a really great topic. And we wanted to have also LifeWise, Julia West from LifeWise, to join us, but because of COVID-19, she has been unable to join us. So we will continue the discussion and we will talk about employment of the disabled and employment of refugee and migrant women. So the first question that we were going to explore is around business models, and I'll direct the question to you, Craig. Can you talk about the business model and thinking behind Will&Able and how it works?
Thanks for that, Ger. And it's a real privilege to be here and to share some of the experiences we've had, both challenging and really exciting. So for us, what we're about is creating jobs for people with intellectual disabilities. That's our primary purpose. And how we do that is it's about selling eco-friendly cleaning products. That's the tool to get to what we need, which is more jobs for people with intellectual disabilities. And I don't know, can you remember the stats, Maya? It's something like there's 6 times harder for people with disabilities, particularly intellectual disabilities, to get work. So they're starting with a sort of a real disadvantage in many ways. So we're very simple. We're saying we want to be just like a business. We're starting out of Altus Enterprises, which has been around for a while, based out in Papatoetoe. They're slightly different. They're more of a sort of a not-for-profit organisation which does contract labour, and they've got 207 people there with disabilities, mainly intellectual disabilities, but not totally. And they're a combination of people there get disability allowances from all sorts of government agencies. They get some supported funding specifically for them as individuals for our work, and then the profits that we make through that work goes to top up what they get, which ends up being about the minimum wage. The limit there, though, is that we're only funded by the government for 207 jobs, so it's very difficult at the moment to go and create new work for people or to create new jobs for people with disabilities. So what we had to focus on, the first bit of our model, was we had to be able to do something that could pay people minimum wage. Because if you do that, then you're not really beholden to the government to say, what you can and cannot do. So that's the first tenet that was really fundamental to how we operate it or how we're going to organise. And so what that means is, key to what we need to do is be very profitable, because the profits we make have to be sufficient that they cover up probably the lower productivity you get from the type of workforce we're generally trying to employ. So if we've got people, operating at 60, 70%, there's a bit of a gap there. So we have to be able to top that up with all the profits we get, go to top that up to get the minimum wage. Now, we're not there yet, and the model's still to be proven. But if we can, we think it's a bit of a world first. So it's not just relevant to New Zealand, it's a way to crack it for the whole world. So that's fundamentally what we're trying to do. We're using also the environmental, what we call ethical consumers, as the vehicle to get us there. And our whole strategy is that you saw a big shift in people's perceptions around, people at supermarkets, no longer with plastic bags and things like that. So we're tapping into the concept that people's perceptions around environmental issues have shifted, consumers, and our theory is that people, if they're thinking that way, then they're probably predisposed to want to help people, their fellow members that are vulnerable. So we're linking the two causes together to get one good outcome.
Roxana, can you tell me about your business model and how you pivoted or came to something that is now quite a successful brand?
Yes, about 5-6 years ago, the WISE Collective were meeting regularly, once a week, with women from refugee backgrounds. And this came about through a partnership with Aotearoa Resettlement Community Coalition and us. And they were saying these are the needs that women have who are feeling isolated, and they want to come together and learn and share and empower. And through working with the women, it became apparent that they would like to increase their economical independence, a bit more finance for the family. And there's one thing that they felt that they could do and share was food and catering. So it really was a sort of grassroots, bottom up approach. And then we looked at different funding models, really through grants to get it started. And it works as we act as a broker between the collective of caterers and the customers. So and Sashi can talk a bit more about this later, but there's a lot of support goes in, and training and nurturing of the women to get them to the level to be able to then cook the food in their own homes, and deliver it, and sometimes tell their story as well. And it really is about meeting their needs where they're at and helping them along that journey. And it doesn't mean that they all stay in the catering, the WISE catering. Some of them do move on, quite a few of them do move on and explore other opportunities, but it really is like a pathway into employment.
That's awesome. I might ask Sashi then a question around, just you were talking about the kitchen requirements and operations. So Sashi, I might move over, and can you tell me a little bit about how it works operationally and how you connect your women to their customers?
Yeah, so we don't have, first thing, we don't have a common kitchen. That's our biggest challenge till now, from the beginning to till now we are facing. And also it's hard for women because they do different kind of ethnic cuisines, and they have, they have to bring everything to a common kitchen to cook. So we asked the women, and they suggested it's good for them if they can cook at their home. So now we, as Roxana said, we are like a connector. So when the customer order, they sent an email to me, and I then speak to our women what is the food and what time, when they have to deliver, and then they cook at their home and they deliver to the customer place. we have we ask the women what kind of food they cook, so that we create a menu. We have 12 different ethnic menus, and also we give them training on food safety, now the food control plan training, and food presentation, portion size workshops, how they have to calculate their ingredients to cost the menu, all this training. And the price what they give to me, then we put like 12% on top of that as a voice contribution. So when the customer, when they do the catering, then the customer pays money to us, and then the profit will go to the women. The 12% which will be going as a voice contribution, this will be for the admin cost, but usually we pay this money for their stall fee or license cost and equipment costs like that.
And Sashi, maybe you want to just highlight the numbers of the women that particularly that you've worked with who've gone through, you know, because it is a pathway. It's not, for some anyway.
So now totally like 275 women got trained, food control and food safety training. And out of that, 50 women, they become a caterer. So now at the moment, we have 23 caterer under our catering services. And yeah.
That's pretty amazing. It's really awesome. And I know that the food industry is particularly difficult and it's particularly competitive. And maybe, I don't know, either Sashi or Rakani, you want to talk a little bit about the marketing around getting your orders for those women?
So marketing, we do through Facebook. And also whenever our women, when they have the stalls, we talk to the customers, also give our flyers to them, talk about our menu and the different ethnicities we have, also the background of our project. We have a lot of things to do, but yeah, that's how we do the promotions.
What I'll just add to that is that particularly this year we have it as a target to extend our marketing and look at different ways, and we've did some surveys at the end of last year, and we know that our segment market share, I think it's I've got the graph that I could send you through if people wanted to see that. I wasn't quite sure how we shared documents, but for example, I think it's like 47% of our customers are actually from local government, and then after that it's NGOs, and then it's commercial companies, private individuals, and market, like food markets at the weekend and stuff, and other. And oh yeah, central government's in that as well. So what we're also wanting to do is shift that sort of that demographics of our customers, so we're not relying just on local government departments. We also asked, why do they purchase from us? And what we found out was, I think it was 79% or 73% were because they wanted to support women from a refugee background. So that was the primary reason. And then following that was the food, the tasting of the food, having a different ethnic menu tastes, and funnily enough, Lowdown was actually supporting a social enterprise. So that, you know, it wasn't because we're a social enterprise, it was because of the mission behind that social enterprise of why people are supporting us. Moving forward, and one of the marketing strategies we're going to be looking at is the promotion, not only from the refugee background, but of our environmental standpoint. And it's something that intrinsically Sashi does in all her training around the food, around food waste. We run compostable workshops, biodegradable plates at any markets, etc., etc. But we never promote that. So going forward, we are going to be looking at like a two-prong approach, like you're helping the women, but also the environment. And I think that might have a bigger, resonant with more people as well.
Yeah, it's really amazing because I know that both yourselves and Will&Able are also, they're trying to link social enterprise to the environment. So it's about people and planet. So I think that's really awesome that, that businesses are thinking about the income as well as those two other issues. You talk about your target market, your reach, and talk about.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, if I'll tell you what, the quickest way for us to do about our marketing is to put up this one-page plan that we did just to try and get all the, and we did this because when we're trying to talk with our corporate customers, it's really easy to get them, they get bored pretty quickly. So you got to bring them very quickly to what you're trying to do. And what you're trying to do here is show that you're pretty organized. You're looking at this as a professional organization. You just happen to have some social outcomes that you're trying to achieve, but there's no difference about the way we're running it. It's basically a business, and all businesses start with a vision. Our vision is very much around, we see ourselves being a global leader, be it this right in terms of social enterprise for creating jobs for people with disabilities. Martin, who runs Altus, has really connected to what's happening around the world, and there's not a lot of people have cracked it particularly well for this space. We then created what our goals are. We try to get some sort of medium-term goals, and for us, it's to create 100+ new jobs for people with disabilities by mid-2021. And to do that, we need 20,000 active members buying our products every month. So we sort of know what we're trying to do. So that's not the end goal, but it's a pass-through point. We will go, yep, we're getting there. It's very important that we've got a really unique business proposition that we're talking to, our customers about. And for us, we're the only eco range of cleaning products in New Zealand using 100% recycled milk bottles, packed and filled by people with disabilities. So there's no one else in that space that we're sort of competing with. In terms of the marketing characteristics, and we looked at it, we're saying, what are our products? Our products relate to the fact we've got a couple of markets. We've got the consumer households, and that's about online purchasing, and that's just 5 very standard retail products. And then we had a pack for the business community. So we think there's slightly different group of products needed for business kitchens. So we took some products out and added some in. And the idea is that from a promotion perspective, if we can get all these products via a channel, which is Office Max, into just about every business in New Zealand using it for their kitchens, for their staff to clean their kitchens, then there'll be some offset around their staff then buying it for their home use. So that's sort of the crude strategy. Pricing, because we're all about profitability, we're going to be more expensive because we're using people, and our competitors like EcoStore, etc., they're all trying to automate and take people out of the equation. So we're going to have a 10% premium, probably up to 15%, and that's a big issue about how much you can really hold versus your competition. And our consumers are going with us at this point, which is great. Our distribution model is sort of we've got a B2B model, which is about using Office Max as a strong partnership we've signed. They're really understanding that social procurement in New Zealand is very weak compared to even Australia. So they realise that something's got to be done, and they want to help us promote the social procurement side of it, which is great. So we've got them really getting in behind us there. A B2C channel is really the efforts that Maya's doing to connect with people, and that's really difficult, and you need money to do it properly. But it's this whole thing about social media, Facebook, Instagram, going to the vulnerable communities and getting ourselves posted on their websites, and we've had some quite good success. But it is difficult to get there. You've really got to create awareness to get your brand up. And our final channel we're working with is foodstuffs and the B2C. So, once we've got those other two firing, if we want to make a scale play, which in terms of our industry we want to, then we've got to be linked to foodstuffs are working with us as a social enterprise. So it's all pretty exciting. And I think if you go back to the page before, it's about knowing your customers. And we've got multiple customer groups. So we've got, some ladies that are, probably have to be reasonably affluent. We've got the people in our target market who have, kids with disabilities. there's the people like Maya, who's a really good representative. They're young and they're really about the planet. They're at a new stage. The only problem is they don't clean much, they don't buy much, but they're really keen. So that's sort of good. And then with corporates, we've already linked to corporates, and we're with the likes of Spark and Westpac and a bunch of others, and they're really keen to help. And the key issue is how do you access their ability to help us, and if you're not asking for money, and that's something we've focused on. With Spark, we used their volunteer day, and so we had a group of people at our organisation. They did a workshop, and they were looking at ways that they could provide sales and marketing support because they're good at it. And equally had Westpac doing the same thing, and they were talking about how our back end, how we should structure as a business, and how we should get funding. So they've been really useful. So that's a little bit about our sort of marketing. It's a shame Maya can't talk to you because some of the work she does, a lot of it is you've got these big strategies with Office Max and foodstuffs, and they're about scale, but not so much profitability. The real profitable market for us is going online direct to consumers and couriering packs of cleaning products, which obviously in today's situation is probably a good opportunity for us. And there it's really telling the story and keeping connected with why they do that. And the thing is, get them not to buy once, but to become members. So this is where subscriptions and things like that work. And we're sort of really playing with all the levers and really keeping in touch with what they're doing and what it means to our people to have a job who are disabled. And obviously it's more than just having money. It's a lot more than that.
Okay, that's a really good segue to talk about measuring the social impact. And again, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the multiplier effect, or, we know that there are immediate outputs, but then there are longer term outcomes, and then there are even broader impacts on the society. So perhaps, Belong, you'd like to talk a little bit about how the success of the WISE catering has impacted on women and even stretched further out into society.
Sashi, do you want to start?
Yeah. So we, over this past 5 years, I think we gave training for 275 women, food safety, food control plan training. Out of this 275, 50 women, they started to work with us caterers. So they start as a caterer, and once they become confident, they move on. If they want to get on to job, then they start to apply. And so out of this 50, now 30 got employment in hospitality places. So, and not only the 276 women who got the training, most of them, they started their employment as soon as they are trained in hospitality and other sectors. So I think for each of us, not only as everyone, employment, income, that's a main important thing for us. So when women, when they get their job, some sort of income for their families, that's a time they feel the sense of belonging to this country. So I think we supported many women through this period and help them to support their families too. I think Dr. McKenna.
Yeah, and adding to that is it's not just that the catering, but some of them are having to learn to drive for the first time, where they've never driven in the country maybe that they've come from, and that is a real confidence development tool. And I think one of the impacts we see there, we haven't been able to measure that, is part of the feedback we get from the customers is that they have a better understanding around the culture and the differences when the woman's come and delivered the food and maybe shared some of her life experience with whether it be Westpac. I'm just picking that because they were mentioning it earlier, who've been a customer of ours, just have that bit more of that understanding around the different cultures that live and breathe within Auckland. The other social impact measure, we haven't put an evaluation framework in place, but is around the environment. And that is very much what we will and I'll be working towards. We can quickly tell you anecdotal stuff around that sort of impact, but yeah, we haven't got any of the raw data around that, apart from all our catering is either reusable plates or I mean, like crockery, or biodegradable. And yeah, the impact it has on the families it's really hard to measure. There's that beautiful story about Ling, Sashi.
Yeah, so Ling started with us before 5 years as a caterer. She joined with the hub activities. That time she had no English. She can say hello, that's it, and her name. And she's really a nice cook. So then we gave her the food safety training with the help of an interpreter. But it was hard for her to pass through these 5 years. But she started as a caterer, and then she also started to sell food in the market. And then she saved the money. Every time when she do the market and the catering orders, she started to save the money. And recently she told us that she got her own cleaning business, her own van. And it's hard for people like us coming from different country with no English, no educational background, and no driving and no confidence. But it takes time. So in this 5 years, now she got her own business, and she's independent, financially independent. It's also her husband and her families help her. So like this, we have many stories. Like one of our women, she shared, literally I can see tears in her eyes. Sashi, I'm 55 years now. First time in my life I send money to my mom through the first job she got recently through our Voice project.
Oh, it's really awesome. Really awesome, these opportunities. Plus, I'm loving the zero waste part. Maya or Craig, would you like to talk about the social impact from your business?
Yeah, no, sure. We actually recently went to some funding with Foundation North, and they required us to go through an impact model template that Akina use, and that's really about outputs, outcomes, and impacts. So sort of, it's probably an easy way to start. So our outputs is very much creating minimum wage jobs. I'm trying to get 100 of those. Then in terms of outcomes, delving a little bit deeper, it's about those jobs, what they do for the individual. And for the individuals we're talking about, yes, there's some component of the monetary value for sure. But really it's about a sense of belonging, it's a purpose. And we say on our website, a reason to get up, and a community, creating friends, and just that sense of being normal, because everyone wants to have a job, have some friends and a home. And a lot of what these things, where they come from, the job is the thing they don't have, which doesn't complete them. And so we can see it, we see every day what it does for them to be working together. And then if you looked at the impacts, much broader, it's very much about the respite and less stress for the families that are looking after them. This is when you go really broad, and less strain and cost on the health, justice, and mental health services. So that's really at its core. People aren't sitting home getting into trouble in many ways because they're productive and happy. And so measuring that is, how do you do that? It's quite hard. The other aspect that we probably need and should do is the environmental, because I think people who are buying off us want to know what's happening there. And we can't show what the impact was on saving waterways and things like that, but because we're doing projects with the likes of Westpac, where they're providing us their empty milk bottles, which we're creating and making out of that our own recycled packaging, as they lead that and bring that amount of packaging, their empty milk bottles to us, I think that's a really good thing that we could measure as something in terms of a closed loop model that corporate New Zealand is helping and we're delivering to them.
Yeah, it's not something that we have done much of so far. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when we do, we'd want to focus on both qualitative and quantitative. So, telling the stories, and then also having those sort of hard facts of data and stats that people can relate to. But it's definitely an area for learning for us.
Yeah, I'm loving hearing about the circular model or the zero waste model. It's really amazing that we're not just thinking about social, but also environmental. And, you know, they do go hand in hand, because it is our most vulnerable who are going to be affected. I'm going to move on to the last point of the webinar, which is actually the hard hits. So we're going to talk a little bit about the challenges. So it's really, really hard starting any business, and particularly a social enterprise, and even more so when you're trying to work being environmentally friendly, having a really ethical supply chain, and working with vulnerable communities. So these are all making it much harder to be a business, which is why social enterprise is so special. Can you talk about a little bit about the challenges you've faced over the years or since you've started, and how possibly you've overcome them? I'll start with Roxana.
I think money's always a challenge, to be quite blunt. It's a lot of faith, but and just believing that what you're doing is going to make a difference in the long term. I think with our the people that we would directly work with, not the customers, the challenges there are around language is our biggest challenge. And Sashi and I were talking about this earlier, around the length of time it takes people. Like for us, it's not, okay, you'll be ready to sell food in 3 months, go. It's not like that. Sashi was saying sometimes she's working with someone for a year. Do you want to continue that, Sashi?
Yeah. So yeah, as Roxana said, when the woman comes, some women, they come with no English. Some, they have a language, but no confidence. So if they don't have English, then I have to work with them and a year. But some women, they will be eager to learn. They can become a caterer in 3 months.